Umayanatimirandasya Yananjana Shalakaya Chakshornilitanyena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Our pranams to everyone present. Very happy to be here with all of you on Bhagavad Gita journey. So there's quite a shift. I'm just looking through where we've come through and where we're going, and quite an interesting shift is taking place. The previous chapter was exclusively dealing with bhakti, devotion, like the sweetness. We were dealing with the cream. And now this next chapter, you could say something like a dry cracker. Distinction between matter and spirit. Quite a shift. Prakriti, Purusha, Vivek Yoga. Distinction between matter and spirit, which is very helpful knowledge. You know, many things that we'll come across in our study of Krishna consciousness may not be so relishable, you know, or we will use the word rasa, right? There may not be so much rasa there, taste, you know, the juice, but it's helpful, you know, it's helpful. One way I like to think of, to like frame this whole thing is like, if you think of how think of a building, think of a home, right? Look, we have Evan and Dula Prabhu, they're busy constructing or doing some work in a building, presumably a home. And but for what purpose, right? In order to do that, you need some skill, you need some knowledge of how you put bricks together and how cement works and the wiring and the plumbing and all these things, right? But what is actually the purpose of all of that? Is it just to know how it all works? You know, what is the purpose of a home? Is it so you can sit and stare at the walls all day? No, it's meant to be a platform which is facilitating loving exchange, relationships, right? The exploration of truth, beauty, knowledge, and so on, higher knowledge. The building in and of itself doesn't mean so much, but the building has a purpose, right? And so in the same way, you know, this like knowledge of how the world is working and why it's working and why it goes this way and that way and why we have different reactions in the mental sphere and the sensory plane. It's helpful to know all of these things, kind of like knowing how the plumbing works, right? But that's ultimately not the purpose, right? And, you know, whereas by contrast, there are lineages within the Vedic world, like that's what they focus on. You know, they focus on the workings of the universe. You know, but we say, no, rasa is a higher concern. Rasa is the ultimate substance. No, divine taste, divine relationship, divine love. You know, these represent the ultimate. So, but at our current stage, it's helpful to have this knowledge, and especially, you know, one sphere in which they're helpful is in understanding, you know, different bodily, you know, mundane desires and urges that we have, right? Different mundane tendencies, mundane attachments will arise within us. So we'll be able to recognize, oh, this is coming because of that, right? This isn't who I am, but this is a particular layer of the material energy that I'm interfacing with at present. But that's not who I am, right? So it's helpful to, you know, become acquainted with this knowledge. And you know, broadly speaking, this term sambandha gyan, this is used as a way of referring to all of this type of knowledge as a whole. Sambandha gyan, understanding what is what, how things are working. Right? It's very, very helpful, you know, in a practical sense. So this we will explore some of this knowledge in this chapter. Welcome, Radhana Rupini. You know, I will request, as far as possible, if everyone can type in their devotional name, if you have, you know, otherwise a name that we know, because we have had hackers before. So Radhana Rupini, if you could put in, you know, your name, that would be helpful. So we.
Okay, I have to learn how to do that, Didi. I couldn't get on
Oh, okay,
with
okay.
my regular computer today. I was having a hard time getting on with my regular computer, so I had to get on with my phone.
I see.
I'm so sorry.
Yeah, actually, I also haven't been able to work out how to do it on the phone. It's easier on the laptop. Yeah.
You just
I'm
go to
trying on my laptop,
participants. You just go to
but I couldn't.
participants, and then you click on your name, and then it will offer you to rename or raise your hand. Actually,
No, but this is before she enters the
oh,
waiting room.
sorry.
Yeah. So
Yeah,
that
because I'm using my phone
know,
today
you know, who
because
it is.
sorry.
Okay. Well, anyway, no
I
problem. If you can, you can.
yeah, I couldn't get on with my computer, so I had to get on with my phone.
Okay. Okay. Okay.
Sorry,
No
I'm
problem.
sorry.
Okay. I had a feeling it would be an auspicious soul. And
I promise not to hack you.
oh, shucks. You're so sweet. Oh, Marie says she knew that she was iPhone 104. Okay, so we'll just know you're iPhone 104. Kirtita's raising her hand. Kirtita, you want to say something? Or was that an accidental hand raise? Okay, never mind. Okay, so let's go to Bhagavad Gita. And I'd like to resume what we started the other week, which is hearing our Gurudev chanting the verses. That was really wonderful. So I'm going to do a screen share. Okay, share screen, share sound. So we're beginning chapter 13. We're going to hear from our Gurudev, Srila Bhakti Sundar Govinda Dev Goswami Maharaj.
ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय त्रयोदशोऽध्याय प्रकृति पुरुष विवेक योग अर्जुन उवाच प्रकृति पुरुषं चैव क्षेत्रं क्षेत्रज्ञमेव च एतद्वेदितुमिच्छामि ज्ञानं ज्ञेयं च केशव श्री भगवान उवाच इदं शरीरं कौन्तेय क्षेत्रमित्यभिधीयते एतद्यो वेत्ति तं प्राहुः क्षेत्रज्ञ इति तद्विदा क्षेत्रज्ञं चापि मां विद्धि सर्वक्षेत्रेषु भारत क्षेत्र क्षेत्रज्ञयोर्ज्ञानं यत्तज्ज्ञानं मतं मम तत्क्षेत्रं यच्च यादृक् च यद्विकारी यतश्च यत् स च यो यत्प्रभावश्च तत्समासेन मे शृणु ऋषिभिर्बहुधा गीतं छन्दोभिर्विविधैः पृथक् ब्रह्मसूत्र पदश्चैव हेतुमद्भिर्विनिश्चितैः महाभूतान्नहंकारो बुद्धिरव्यक्तमेव च इन्द्रियाणि दशैकञ्च पञ्च चेन्द्रियगोचराः इच्छाद्वेषसमं सुखं दुःखं संघातश्चेतना धृतिः एतत् क्षेत्रं समासेन सविकारमुदाहृतम् अमानित्वम् अदम्भित्वम् अहिंसा क्षान्तिरार्जवम् आचार्योपासनं शौचं सौर्यमात्मविनिग्रहः इन्द्रियार्थेषु वैराग्यम् अनहंकार एव च जन्ममृत्युजरा व्याधि दुःखदोषानुदर्शनम् आसक्तिः अनभिष्वङ्ग पुत्रदारगृहादिषु नित्यं च समचित्तत्वं मिष्टानि ष्टोपपत्तिषु मयि चानन्ययोगेन भक्तिरव्यभिचारिणी विविक्तदेशसेवित्वम् आरतिर्जनसंसदि अध्यात्मज्ञाननित्यत्वं तत्त्वज्ञानार्थदर्शनम् एतज्ज्ञानमिति प्रोक्तम् अज्ञानं यदतोऽन्यथा ज्ञेयं.
Okay, so we went through the first 12. Now we can chant these together. Arjuna Vacha Prakritim Purushan Chaiva Kshetram Kshetragyameva Cha Etadvedito Michami Jnanam Gyancha Keshava Sri Bhagavan Vacha idam shariram kanteya kshetramitya vidiyate etadyo veti tam prabhu kshetragya iti tadvidaha kshetragyan chapi mam vidhi sarvakshetrashu bharata kshetragyo jnanam yattad matam mama takshetram yaccha yatshiksha yadvikari yatascha yat sacha yoya prabhavascha tatsamasena meshanu Rishibir bahura gitam chandobir vividai pitak Brahma sutra parashchaiva hetu madbir vinishchitai Mahabhutanya hankaro udravyaktameva cha Indriyani dashaikancha pancha chandriya gocharaha Icha dvesha sukham dukam sangatashchetanaditihi etachetram samasena savikaram udahritam amanitvam adambitvam ahimsa kshantirarjavam vajrajopasanam shocham staryamatma vinigraha indriyarteshu vairagyam anahankara eva cha Janma mrityu jara vyadi dukkha doshanudarshanam asaktir anabhishvanga uccadada grihadishu nityancha samachittatvam ishtanishtopapatisu mayi chananya yogena bhaktiravya vivikta desha sevitvam aratir jana samsadi Adhyatma jnana nityatvam tattva jnanartha darshanam ittaj jnanamiti proktam ajnanam yarato nyata. Okay, let's go to English. Arjuna said, "O Keshava, I would like to know about material nature, the person, the field, the knower of the field, knowledge, and the object of knowledge." So this is wonderful, you know? I mean, from one perspective, as I mentioned earlier, this is a bit like a dry biscuit compared to the ice cream of bhakti, as discussed in the previous chapter. But, you know, from another angle of vision, it's just so wonderful that we're being given this like clear, systematic explanation of the nature of reality. Like, where else do you find this? You just don't. Now, there's just so much clear information that we find in the Vedas. It's wonderful, you know. Think of how many persons are, you know, become bewildered or live in such a bewildered, confused state, and how many persons go through the crisis, you know, existential crisis, you know, who am I? Why am I here? And but here in the Vedas, we're being given such clear knowledge. We're being given a roadmap, clear, detailed roadmap. So what is I would like to know about material nature, the person, the field. No, there's understanding of the distinction between all these things in a very clear way. And I'll just point out two words here in the Sanskrit, which are quite helpful, and you'll come across them in different places. This kshetra, or ketra, if you're going for Bengali pronunciation, and kshetragya, right? So, you know, just from right off the bat, this is so helpful, right? So here the field is referring to the body and all associated paraphernalia. And then kshetragya means the knower of that, the person living inside of that, right? So there's this clear distinction being made from the beginning. Also, at the beginning of Bhagavad Gita, we come across these terms of deho and dehi. Deho means the body, and dehi means the embodied person inside of the body. So this distinction is made very clear from the beginning. So but this is another, you know, these words are a little different, and they have different connotation, which is helpful. So the body is being conceived of as a field, like a field of action. right? And it's like, it really just like using that terminology helps you to take some distance, right? And to engage as an observer, to be, right? To exist as an observer. Like our body is just this field where, you know, the minds, the senses, and so on, they're all just playing in different, we're playing off in different ways, right? They're reacting in different ways to different stimuli. That's just a whole field of action that's going on. But who we are, the I within us, is completely distinct, right? So it's, that terminology is very, very helpful. The Supreme Lord said, "O Arjuna, this body is known as the field. One who knows this field is described by the learned as the knower of the field." "O Bharat, you should also know me as the knower of all fields," Krishna is saying. This knowledge of the field and of the knower of the field is true knowledge, in my opinion. Now hear from me briefly what this field is, its constitution, transformations, causes, and effects, and who the knower of the field is and of his potency. I think I really like this. I don't know why we haven't done this before, the screen sharing, because then people who are following later, they can also like follow along without necessarily having the book. So this is nice. Getting some hearts from our group here, head nods. Okay, well, I'm glad everyone's happy with this. This has been taught in many ways by various sages, the different Vedas, and the aphorisms of the Brahma Sutra with its conclusive logic. So the Brahma Sutra, also known as the Vedanta Sutra, Vedanta Darshan, known by different names, the penultimate Vedic text. The 5 primary elements of ether, air, fire, water, and earth, ego, intelligence, and the unmanifest material nature. The 10 senses, the mind, and the 5 objects of the senses, likes, dislikes, happiness, unhappiness, the aggregate, consciousness, and determination. All these are summarily known as the field and its transformation. So, sounds familiar, right? These are all things that we, you know, go through in our daily lives, you know, and it just gives you a wonderful perspective, right? As I was saying, this field of action where all these things are playing off on one another and reacting in different ways. But we ourselves, we are aloof, we are distinct from that. So yeah, so just going back here, the 5 primary elements. So these are like the most gross expressions of the mundane, of the material energy. And then there are these more subtle elements also. Ego, intelligence, and so on. Okay, then going on. Desirelessness for honor, pridelessness, non-violence, forbearance, honesty, service to the spiritual master, purity, stability, self-control, detachment from the objects of the senses, absence of egoism, awareness of the miseries of birth, disease, old age, and death, worldly detachment, absence of doting on children, wife, home, etc., constant equanimity in desirable or undesirable circumstances, undeviating pure devotion to me, residing in a solitary place, indifference to mundane association, constancy in self-knowledge, and the vision of the goal of true knowledge. All these qualities have been said to denote knowledge. Anything contrary to this is to be considered ignorance. Wow, that was so wonderful. I'm going to read this again. I love hearing of these qualities. These are like, people make these like meditation cards, right? Like we could do that with these. There are different lists like this that we find in the scriptures, and they all offer wonderful meditation. So I'll go through this list again. All of these qualities have been said to denote knowledge. So let's hear it all again. And I will also point out here in this list, some of these phrases are quite well known amongst our Vaishnava circles. So one is so these are described as the four miseries: is janma, mrityu, jara, and vyadi, dukkha, dosha, anudarshanam. So janma is birth, mrityu is death, jara is old age, vyadi is disease. Dukkha, suffering, sadness, sorrow. So these four things are described as as four sufferings that we experience, in the conditioned state in this world. So dukkha, dosha, anudar. So having awareness, having knowledge of these things is helpful. And then this is also, but I think perhaps there's another verse more well-known where it's expressed again, but this bhaktir avyabicharini brings this undeviating devotion. Single, let's see. Yeah, okay, yeah, it's used here, undeviating. Without pause, without cessation. This is something to be aspired for. Okay, let's read our list again. Desirelessness for honor. Pridelessness. Non-violence. Forbearance. Honesty. Service to the spiritual master. Purity. Stability. Self-control. Detachment from the objects of the senses. Absence of egoism. Awareness of the miseries of birth, disease, old age, and death. Worldly detachment. Absence of doting on children, wife, home, etc. Constant equanimity in desirable or undesirable circumstances. I'm reminded of Sudama Vipra, who was Krishna's good friend when he was in school, and he, they attended Gurukul. They stayed in the same ashram together, served their guru, Sandipani Muni, right? Was Krishna's guru, had that role. And then later on, right, Krishna goes on, he ends up assuming his role as a prince in the royal, right, Yadu dynasty. And meanwhile, this Sudama Vipra, he's a very poor Brahmin. Brahmin of there are so many different types of Brahmins. And as I recall, a lower type of Brahmin doesn't get the type of respect that Brahmins will generally get. He refers to himself as Brahma Bandhu. He's like a lower class Brahmin. But he's living in poverty, right? And we hear this story how on one occasion his wife, sent him to visit his old school buddy Krishna, who's now living in a palace in Dwarka, right? And she's thinking, because she's feeling bad, how her husband's living and how they're living, and thinking, Krishna will help, and if she sees how he's living. And Sudama Vipra's, not going with any thought like that, but thinking, okay, my wife is asking, and it will be very nice to see my old dear friend Krishna. And he goes with this very humble offering of this chipped rice, and Krishna receives him with so much honor and affection. And then the time comes for him to return. But when he's returned to his home, he finds that his home has been transformed into this magnificent palace. But what's interesting is that, you know, he accepts this like as a gift, right? That's come from the Lord. But what's interesting is he doesn't become so, you know, excited by that. You know, he maintains, it's mentioned, he maintains his equanimity, you know, and it's not that, oh, he was suffering in poverty and now he's also not going to enjoy lavishly in wealth, right? He's living on a deeper plane, right? He's not so affected by this plane of mundane duality. So whether to be in poverty or to live in great splendor, for the devotee is the same. They're connecting with a deeper plane of reality. All these things are happening on the surface. Constant equanimity in desirable or undesirable circumstances. Undeviating pure devotion to me. Residing in a solitary place. Indifference to mundane association. Constancy in self-knowledge. And the vision of the goal of true knowledge. All these qualities have been said to denote knowledge. It's wonderful, you know, it's really wonderful to meditate on these qualities and in our daily lives, right? We can see how we're moving towards these things. We're trying to practice these things. And like in very random little moments in the day and little conversations that we have with others, we can see how we're being tested on these points, right? You know, like here, desirelessness for honor, pridelessness, like how much have we really, you know, taken that mood? How much has that mood really taken root within our heart, right? That we are really free from the desire to speak about how wonderful we are and all the great things that we've done. Just in like little moments in our day-to-day lives, right? We can observe, oh, we're doing okay, or we're not doing okay, right? Or we may be surprised how well we're doing, or we may be surprised by how badly we're doing in that department, right? You know, spiritual life is, you know, doesn't have to be this grand Hollywood moment, right? But just these little day-to-day interactions, day-to-day moments, daily moments. You know, we can learn so much about ourselves and have so many opportunities for growth. So, okay, so we went through the first 12 verses in this chapter. Does anyone want to bring up any point here, or shall we continue? Okay, so let's go back to hearing our Guru Dev, Srila Govinda Maharaj. So we're going to pick up in verse 13.
Tat pravakhami jad gatam agyanam jadato natha gyayam jat tat pravakhami jad gatam mritanusnute anadi mat paragna brahma na sattan nasa duschati sarvatah panipadam tat sarvatah kishiro mukham sarvatah sujiman loke sarvamavritta tishtati सर्वेन्द्रिय गुणाभासम सर्वेन्द्रिय विवर्जितम असक्तं सर्वभृच्चैव निर्गुणं गुणभोक्तृ च बहिरन्तश्च भूतानां आचरणं चरमेव च सुखोत्तात् तद् अविज्ञेयं दूरस्थं चान्तिके च तत् अविभक्तं च भूतेषु विभक्तमिव च स्थितं भूतभर्तृ च तद्ज्ञेयं ग्रसिष्णु प्रभविष्णु च ज्योतिषामपि तज्ज्योतिस्तमसः परमुच्यते ज्ञानं ज्ञेयं ज्ञानगम्यं हृदि सर्वस्य अधिष्ठितम् इति क्षेत्रं तथा ज्ञानं ज्ञेयं चोक्तं समासतः मद्भक्त एतद्विज्ञाय मद्भावायोपपद्यते प्रकृतिं पुरुषं चैव विद्धन्नादि उभावपि विकारांश्च गुणांश्चैव विद्धि प्रकृति संभवान्.
Okay, so we've gone to verse 20. And yeah, another thing I'll mention, I'm thinking of some of the points that Marie brought up last week. You know, in many ways, Bhagavad Gita is kind of like building a foundation, you know, for bhakti. And then bhakti is the plus, right? So like, but this is kind of like clearing the way. Like Bhagavad Gita, many of these teachings is kind of like clearing the dirt away. So the beauty and the purity of the culture of devotion can become more apparent, right? So let's take for an example, desirelessness for honor, right? Pridelessness, right? So freedom from the desire to promote ourselves, to glorify ourselves, for having recognition and so on. But then what does that translate as in the realm of bhakti, right? Does anyone want to make a comment about that? Any thoughts on that? Because actually you know, there's a natural desire within us to glorify, to praise, right? But in the culture of bhakti, instead of glorifying ourselves, we want to glorify the Lord, right? We want to glorify the Vaishnavas. We want to glorify the devotees. We want to give honor to Guru, to Gauranga, right? And it's mentioned sometimes these three things that are generally seen as the three greatest obstacles: Kanak, Kamini, and Pratishta, right? Kanak, wealth; Kamini, sense pleasure; and Pratishta, honor, right? And it's mentioned by our gurus that what we have to do is, like, in the culture of bhakti, it's not that we're just trying to reject these things, but we're putting them in their proper place, right? So wealth belongs to Lord Narayan. So offer all wealth, right? Narayan is the master of Lakshmi Devi, the goddess of wealth, right? So she likes that all wealth will be used in his service. So we will conceive that what wealth we have, what we are earning, doesn't belong to us. It is Narayan's property. Kamini, sense pleasure, that's Krishna's department. Krishna's the ultimate sense enjoyer. And then Pratishta, honor, belongs to Guru. So when we want to spread our Guru's glory, we want the renown of our Guru to be spread. We want to offer whatever honor comes to us, we want to offer to our Guru. Our Gurudev made this very charming expression once, saying that I have to turn myself into a Pratishta rocket. Saying that, you know, whatever honor comes to me, I'm giving that, I'm offering that up to my Guru, you know, like a rocket, throwing that up to him. Like, it's not for me, it is all for him. So this is what's beautiful in the culture of bhakti. Nothing's to be rejected, actually, but it's all just to be put in its proper place with the proper object, the proper focus. Okay, we can continue. So we'll pick up from verse. Does any volunteers to read these translations, 13 to 20? Volunteer.
Are we gonna chant them, Vishaka Didi?
We did already. Oh yeah, you're right. We didn't. We heard Gurudev. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Thanks for the reminder. Let's chant them all. So picking up from 13. Yeyam yattad pravakshyami yajgyatvam anadimat padam brahma nasatan nasaduchyate sarvata panipadam tat sarvatokshi shiromukam sarvata shrutimaloke sarvamavritya tishtati sarvendriya gunabhasam sarvendriya vivarjitam asaktam sarvabhichaiva nirgunam gunabhokchicha bahirantascha bhutanam acharam charameva cha sukshmatvattara vigyayam durastam chantike chatat vibhaktam cha bhuteshu vibhaktamiva chastitam bhutavarche cha tajyayam tvashishnu prabhavishnu cha jyotisham api tajyotis tamasa paramuchyate Jnanam Geyam Gyanagamyam Vidhi sarvasya dishtitam iti kshetram tata jnanam yeyan choktum samasataha madbhakta etad vidyaya madbhavayo papanyate prakritim purusham chaiva vidyanadi upavati ikaramscha gunamschaiva vidhi prakrita sambhavan. Okay, we'll go to the translations. And Ganglila, do you want to read those translations?
Starting with now, I shall describe
Yes.
the object of knowledge, realizing which one attains the nectar of life, resting in me. It is known as Brahma, eternal, neither being nor non-being. 14. Everywhere are his hands and feet. Everywhere are his eyes, head, mouth, and ears. He pervades the entire universe as the supersoul. 15. He illuminates all the senses and their functions, yet he is without material senses. He is completely aloof to everything, yet he is the maintainer of all, Vishnu. He is transcendental to the three modes of material nature, yet he is the Lord of all qualities. 16. He is situated within and without all moving and stationary beings, near yet far, subtle and therefore more difficult to comprehend. 17. Although invisible, he appears as divided in all beings. He is to be known as the one who manifests, maintains, and devours all beings. 18. He is known as the illuminator of the luminaries, beyond darkness, situated in the hearts of all beings. He's knowledge, the object of knowledge, reached by knowledge. 19. The field, knowledge, and the object of knowledge have been briefly described by me. Realizing these truths, my devotee attains love for me. 20. Know that both material nature, Maya, and the person, individual soul, are beginningless. And know that the transformation, body, senses, and their functions, and the transformations of the modes of nature, such as pleasure, pain, sorrow, and delusion, are born of material nature.
Okay, thank you, Gangalina.
Hare Krishna.
Does anyone have any comments here or questions? Not sure I have anything to add. Ramananda Prabhu. Dhanyavad.
Yeah. You read very nicely, very beautiful, actually. I even lived so many years, but I don't know nothing. I want to ask something. Actually, Gurudev mentioned once, honesty is the best policy. Well, I used to see many devotees, and Gurudev mentioned a couple points. So, would you explain on that, especially honesty? Because we have tendency to self-deception and cheating. So it's
We have a tendency for what, sorry?
For self-deception and cheating propensity. There are four natural defects
Right.
in the every living entity.
Right, right. So so we're going back to this list of good qualities. So honesty is on. So you're saying that you heard Gurudev say once, that quoting that expression, honesty is the best policy.
Yes, that's correct.
Oh, and so to elaborate on that.
Yes, please. Because devotees, I lived with many devotees, even externally, they were senior. So I don't know, I used to see some things I don't say, because Gurudev said, my religion is find fault with me. So, but you see so many things, so I don't know. Yeah, Gurudev mentioned that, so I remember vaguely that Gurudev said, honesty is the best policy. He was telling some devotees. So just, I want more clarification on that. Thank you.
Wait, but You mean, like, are you saying like there's some circumstances where it's okay to not be honest, or what is it you're asking exactly?
And that's also true, see, but, because if you see in Mahabharata, Lord Krishna asked Yudhishthira Maharaj to lie, and he didn't lie. So then he got a bad wrath for that. He got consequences for that. So it.
I think it's also like a matter of perception so much. I think that it could be a discussing thing. It could be something to look at. I see it as some people, they try to be honest, but they're only honest in their veil of ignorance in a way.
Oh, wow. Wow. Beautiful.
See, oh, this is what I saw. For example, there is like, there is, what's that called? Observations of when witnesses observe a scene, like say like an accident or a crime or something like that, how they all saw the same thing, but they all saw something different according to their own clarity, of their own quality of mind, of their own, veiled perception, something like that.
You reminded me of one of the expression of Srila Sridhar Maharaj, honesty among thieves.
Yeah, I remember that. Also, Srila Prabhupada used to quote that also quite often.
Everyone has their own version of honesty.
But we want divine honesty. We don't want mundane honesty.
I mean, what can I say? I mean, in general, I think it's good that we look at ourselves, because it's true what Gangalila is saying, right? People may not have perception of how they're being dishonest, right? I mean, that's the tricky thing, right? When you're living, as you said, like you're living in this haze of ignorance, then you don't know, actually. You don't have clarity of how you're responding to the environment and how honest or dishonest you are. So I feel the best policy is that we try to focus on our own correction and be merciful in our dealings with others. We know that for us, it is helpful to be as honest as possible. We want to have a clean platform. I mean, and it gets tricky because, as you pointed out yourself, there's also conception of mundane truth and spiritual truth, right? And for the cause of the absolute, if we're just discussing this all in terms of theory, it's not what, I'm not advising everyone to go out lying, but if we're just discussing in terms of like principle and theory and then yes, for the service of Krishna, then there are cases where, what is truth actually? Krishna is truth, and what Krishna wants is truth, right? So from the highest level, that is the only truth, right? So to lie in the fields of mundane conception of truth and untruth, that's not really a lie, right? So, but from our level, we have to ask ourselves, I see several persons raising their hands, touched on a hot topic here. Okay. Oh, Scarlett, sorry you have to go. Thanks for joining us. Have a beautiful evening. But for our level, we must question ourselves. Am I in such a position where I have a license to lie? Because I'm such a great devotee, I can do whatever I want. No, we will move forward in a humble way and we will consider ourselves on a beginner's level, lower level. And it is, living a truthful life within this mundane spirit creates a cleaner atmosphere, right? And it allows for more straightforward dealings with others and gives a better impression to others also. And all these things will support, this sattvic way of life. It will help us provide a good platform upon which we can develop towards the nirguna plane, the plane of higher truth, right? So, but we have to be, when it comes to others, we want to be a little compassionate, because everyone's living in their own particular version of ignorance, right? And everyone's at different stages in their journey. So we can try to correct ourselves. So we've had 2 hands raised. Who wants to go first? Okay, rather than repeating, let's say, Igor, please.
So when I think about lying, which I'm really allergic to because I have been lied to so much in my life and caused so much pain in my life, I think about being a conditioned soul. I am a conditioned soul, and there's 4 characteristics of a conditioned soul. The propensity to cheat, a faulty senses, our senses are faulty, a bad memory, and to be illusion, to go under the illusion. And the propensity to cheat, I think, and to be under illusion. Sometimes I think lying falls somewhere there.
Yeah.
And I mean, I think everybody in this world has, because it's Kali Yuga, we've kind of lied somehow or another a little bit. I mean, if a friend says, "Oh, do you think I look fat?" I'm never going to say yes. I'm always going to say, "Oh, no, you look good." So that's a lie, but it's not gonna make such a damage where a bigger lie could, conspiracy or something like, so, you see all these big crimes committed by lies and stuff. Our lives and families have been destroyed and changed, and society because of lies. So I think also another thing I think of when I think of lies is I think of Lord Ramachandra and how he showed us the true way to live, so sattvic. He gave us a great example of almost like housewife and stuff, and how to live sattvically in this world. But yeah, lies are, they could be pretty dangerous, I think, and we always have to remember that there's the intention of hurting or creating trouble would be a really heavy thing. But if my friend asks me if she looks good, if she looks fat especially, it's gonna be hard for me to say yes.
So that you brought up a nice point, right? And this, we can say this is like mercy above justice, right? That's a higher plane of truth, actually. The plane of love, mercy, beauty, that's superior to the plane of raw truth, justice, power, and so on, right? That's a higher plane of truth. This is Srila Shuddha Maharshi, he discusses this point in one place, but we can maybe save that for another day. But yeah, conception of a white lie, just to speak of it in very basic terms. Okay, well, Narottam Prabhu's been waiting. Let's hear what he has to say.
Yeah, I like what Mataji just said, Alutiji just said. Well, in the sense of the taking into consideration time, place, circumstance, and how that can change the relative truth and how it's expressed. Given like for example, if we're studying and we have to regurgitate the theory of evolution, you know what I mean? So we have to do that just to get our grades and move on,
right,
with our schooling, so there's like that type of, I mean, and then also on a higher power scale, somebody who is heading the Department of Education, how are they going to, if they're Krishna conscious, can they bring in all these changes all right away to education, or will they have to do it, step by step, and making sure like, the Krishna is introduced first, and then slowly or over time, changing everything else. So yeah, I like that. And the other aspect I like is like when telling another devotee that, staying be honest or staying true to your word, to do it in a way with compassion, because not always it's taken, devotees can take it to heart as well. Like um but that's just like but I don't know, I'm talking too much. But yeah, that's what I meant to say. Like when a relative, uh, truth in relative relation to what, it depends on where we are
Yes, yes, yeah,
and what
very
our position is. Yeah.
Jai, very nicely articulated, Prabhu. Thank you for sharing. And Gangalila also has her hand raised, so please let's hear.
Wow, I'm kind of excited, about that. That thanks for pulling it out, because I feel that we are completely conditioned to live in a lie. Like politics, we kind of know that's bullshit. They can't promise that. Or like a simple thing like a insurance policy, insurance, so I feel safe. That's all, if you really think about it, a dishonest way of handling life. I feel that I'm surrounded by women here who don't look how they look like. They don't have the hair they have. They don't have the lips they have. They don't have the age they have. So it is a norm to actually almost like an invitation to, if you want to play this Maya game and live in this world, you are actually invited to continue the lie. So that's why I think this is it's a good thing that we pulled it out and looked at, like, no, we need to be honest. We can't let ourselves be carried away with, politics and look for insurance policies, or even such an idea as like, I own this land. Because it's all very questionable how, and in the world we live in, it's not only accepted, but it is fostered to live in these things of dishonesty with self, really. Like I go around going like, why do you're 65, why do you want to look like 20? It's like, I don't do that, but sometimes it comes up, and I gonna, it's a really good one. I like that a lot. I'm getting excited about it. I could speak more about it, but I'm not going to. And I think Marie said something, what I think is also, I think when we take on Bhakti Yoga, we really would like to invite ourselves. Like, I really want to really be honest to myself and really kind of peel the layers of my own bullshit with myself. And I think that's what's really important. Maybe not so much that I need to save the world and walk around going like, why are you still, killing cows? But, kind of just continue to work here and do that self-honesty, the radical being honest with myself. Like, am I really not conscious with this person, with this life, with this moment, or my dealings here, service? And I think that's why it's probably in the Gita, so I can have that quality honesty with myself. And then when I get it with myself, I can probably communicate it. Haribol, Hare Krishna.
Very nice, Gangalila. Yeah, actually, you brought up some really nice points, and one thing that you've sparked in me is that what you said about how we're like conditioned to live in a lie, but you could also think of it like this. It's like we like stories. And ultimately, Krishna Lila is a story, right? Like, they don't know that, like, it's all a lie, actually. Like, that God is a little, like, the supreme almighty being. He's posing as this powerless little cowherd boy, right? Like, it's all a story, actually. Love is a lie, you could also say. Like, love changes your perception, right? Right? There's Maya, and then there's Yoga Maya, right? There's mundane illusion, and then there's divine illusion. So like what's coming to me is that because of the fact that like Krishna Leela is a story in a sense, like there's all the more importance for us to clean up our act in this world, like not confuse things too much, right? Why do we want to compound upon the confusion, right? Like I'll give you one analogy that may be helpful. You know, Srila Sridhar Maharaj, he made this comment once. It was a couple. They had been married separately and they divorced, and then they went to remarry, right? It was a couple who had come together, both divorcees or whatever the word is. And when Srila Sridhar Maharaj heard about this, he was unhappy to hear about it, and he said, how will they be able to understand the purity of the gopis, right, who actually made a sacrifice in giving up their husbands to serve Krishna, right? Like, how will you be able to understand the purity of what is apparently immoral, of what is apparently a lie in the divine sphere, if you are living the degraded parallel of that in this world, right? How will you be able to understand that the gopis actually made a great sacrifice to break the moral codes, right? To go to serve Krishna, right? So in that sense, right, like living a clean life in this world, it helps us better to appreciate, right, the purity of that higher plane. You know, Krishna's a thief. Oh, so we will all be thieves, right? Like those types of people have that type of perception, right? Can make comments like that. Like, you know, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, you know, Krishna's a liar, so we'll all be liars. Right? No, that's not how it works. His lying is taking place on a different sphere, right? In a different plane. You know? And you know, and this is one reason why Lord Chaitanya Dev, he lived a life as a very strict renunciate, right? As a sannyasi, because he's worshiping Krishna, who is apparently, you know, a womanizer, you know, a thief, and so on. So Lord Chaitanya, he's worshiping that, like living a life of purity in this world and demonstrating thereby the purity of that higher plane, right? Why do we want to confuse things, right? So anyway, that's my inspiration, you know, hearing your comments.
We don't want to confuse. Can I say something, Shakati?
Yes, please, Prabhu.
Actually, I heard Gurudev also say in one lecture that sheep leading sheep. So sometimes leaders are not good, so how you follow them? Even Prabhupada used to say also something, comment. I was listening one Gurudev lecture, because I seen a lot of sannyasis, a lot of changes in our mission. So it's just, I don't know, sometimes very difficult. When you trust somebody you like, then it turns into something else. I like Guru Maharaj, Param Guru Maharaj analogy. He said it's a hospital. One disease cured, then other disease come. I guess that's why Gurudev said, my religion is find fault with me, self-analysis. But how you interact with especially senior devotees.
My camera seems to have frozen. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Yeah.
I think somehow my camera's turned off, but at least the sound is working.
Yeah, sound works. Yeah, I can.
Okay. Thank you so much for bringing up that topic, Ramananda. You sparked some real interest in the group. Thank you all for your wonderful contributions. And I think we're just going over time, and we're going to have a little program here, so I'll close here for today. Thank you all for your wonderful participation. Jai Shri Bhakti Sundar Govinda Dev Goswami Maharaj ki Jai, Srimad Bhagavad Gita ki Jai, Naam Sankirtan ki Jai, Gaur Premanande. Hari
Hari
Bol.
Hari Bol.
Vishaka ji
Jai
ki
Shrimati
jai.
Vishaka Didi ki jai. All the devotees ki jai. Hari Naam Sankirtan ki Hari Bol. Jai Ganga Leela.